because I'm somewhat certain that a few of you are a bit tired of seeing me practically fangirl over a single frame. This final part will serve as a way for me to convey how I think Vauban should be reworked, if he gets reworked down the line. Again, it's just my thoughts on what I think Vauban should be, and it's nothing more than my thoughts. Regardless, let's start with the passive. This passive would be completely removed, as an armor-based passive for a squishy crowd control warframe doesn't make any sense. I would suggest giving this passive to Chroma, who technically doesn't have a passive unless you think his mechanic of different colors give different elements actually qualifies as a passive. Since Vauban is strictly a CC frame, it would be best if his passive were related to using his abilities. As such, I propose that Vauban receive a passive such as this one. Because Vauban's role as a trapper involves him frequently using his abilities, it would be best if his passive makes it easier for his team to kill any contained enemies, in this case by dealing 15% increased damage. Of course, the passive only works on enemies under the effect of one of Vauban's abilities, otherwise it would be nothing more than a passive and free damage buff. For Tesla, I would tweak it. Tesla's not meant to be a damaging ability, so its damage will be cut out entirely. However, because its low status chance and single target shock is virtually useless when compared to the rest of Vauban's kit, I would give it the arc trap treatment. In other words, I would buff the status chance of Tesla to 100%, and allow it to continually shock enemies within range. This would make Tesla into kind of a fire and forget ability, capable of holding enemies back while not outright killing them. The point of Tesla is for it to be thrown onto a door or hallway that needs to be protected, and it will remain there while the Vauban player focuses on something else. For Mine Layer, I would overhaul and change it. Shred's ragdoll would be removed for sure and replaced with a temporary stun. In addition, its armor reduction duration would be increased to be the same as Concuss's, which is 8 seconds. 3 new abilities would be introduced, but the 4 ability limit would remain. Players could choose which 4 out of the 7 they wish to use with Mine Layer by swapping them out in the arsenal. The new mines essentially give the player a choice in terms of their playstyle. Since each Tesla can only stun lock up to 5 enemies each, throwing a mine behind a Tesla in case an enemy gets through would be prudent. In that instance, you could either throw out Lethargy to slow, damage, and debuff them, Force Bomb to pull them back, or Beam Spiral to simply damage them while they remain stunned. The original idea was to throw out Trip Laser and Bounce in order to replace them with something better, but given how there's the minority of players that would be pissed to see them be removed, revamping Mine Layer with new shit would serve as a compromise. For Bastille, I would leave it as is. Of course, Bastille still has those bugs that prevent it from being 100% perfect, so those would have to be resolved, but other than that, Bastille doesn't really need any changes. Vortex is the same way, as it also has a bug that prevents it from being completely amazing. Those are really the only changes that Vauban needs. To summarize, all that is required for a potential rework to be successful would be to 1. Give Vauban a new passive, preferably one that makes sense to his role. 2. Buff Tesla, since in its current state it's only somewhat relevant when spammed, which is not good for a first ability. 3. Buff Shred's debuff duration and replace its ragdoll, as a ragdoll effect on an armor removal ability is just counterproductive. 4. Replace Bounce and Trip Laser with better abilities, or introduce new ones that players can swap to. 5. Fix the long-standing bugs on Bastille and Vortex. Thank you for watching.